Good morning, everybody. Who's in the house today? Sorry, I'm a little bit behind schedule. I was just busy setting up my guitar. It's that time of year again where the guitars need a little TLC as the temperature changes. So how's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's in shape so far. Had a good week. I'm going to adjust my seat here. I had a pretty good week and I was looking forward to Sunday. Busy week. A lot of birthdays this week. I have we're on our third birthday this week. This week. 15th was my birthday. 18th was my son's birthday, and today, actually tomorrow, we're a little bit ahead of schedule with her, but tomorrow's my daughter's birthday. So a lot of birthday celebrations in my house, which is a good thing, but too much cake is a bad thing. So let's see who's here today. Let's start by saying hello to the boys. Hope everybody's hope the usuals are here today. Jack is here. Kushman. Farid, good morning. Ken, good morning. Wayne, Jean, what the meow? Good morning. Danai is here as well. Paul's here. Jean. Awesome. It's me, Don P. Wayne McConnell, MFN. Great. Nice turnout so far. Marcel's here as well. Time Surfing Alien. Great. Welcome, guys. Well, I think we're going to have a pretty good, interesting show. There's a lot of stuff to talk about today. Today I was, like I mentioned, you can probably tell by the Allen keys and stuff here strewn about. I was adjusting my guitar. I got all my tools here and stuff. I don't know if you've noticed, but, this time of year, I'm going to say, mid-October, the temperature starts to change. And with it, the guitars start to fluctuate a little bit. And so I was playing this guitar today. I grabbed the Kramer. And I noticed that I would say the relief on the neck was a little bit steeper than it used to be. So I kind of did a quick... a little adjustment there. So I don't know if that's too loud, guys, but just going through my Marshall today. I usually have the Dirty Shirley there. Decided to switch it up, put it in the Marshall. No pedals or anything, just the Marshall Studio Vintage cranked with the Kramer. So, just playing that song, we have to say congratulations to Peter Frampton. Did you guys hear the news? I think he was inducted, finally. Hall of Fame. Took them long enough. I don't know if, I think it was this week. I think. I don't have all the details, but I think it was this week that he was inducted in Cleveland. I like Peter Frampton. He's a good guy. He seems like a really down-to-earth dude. Even with all the fame and everything that, comes with rock and roll, I think he basically survived all of it pretty well. And he seems humble. I think he's basically into his wines now. I think he has a couple of vineyards, so he's enjoying drinking the wine, enjoying the fruits of his labor, so to speak, after all these years. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I really like this Kramer. This is you guys have seen this one before, I'm pretty sure. It's the Kramer Beretta Special, the black one. This is a very early one that I showed a couple of times on the channel. I had modified this by putting in the Vega Trem. A lot of people were giving me a little bit of flack for that because they're like, why would you put in such an expensive trem system into a guitar that only costs a couple $100? I did it because it sounds good and it plays even better with the tremolo in there. Seymour Duncan, this is a Jeff Beck humbucker in here, and I think it sounds good. It plays well too, so I'm happy with it. Hey Rico, nice to see you. Dan says, yep, Ozzy II, Hall of Fame. Ozzy II, huh? I didn't get the Ozzy notification, or it didn't pop up in my feed. I thought Ozzy was already in the Hall of Fame. I guess there's still quite a few artists that are still not in there. Some people don't like it. A lot of artists, at least what I've heard, a lot of artists seem to be unhappy with the way the Hall of Fame is being run, in the sense that they want the artist to perform at the event free of charge. They actually charge the artist to like fly in the band and everything, and it's basically additional costs for the artists to be inducted. So a lot of artists over the years have complained about it, and they basically said it's like a sham kind of thing. They're using the artists to basically make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame even more popular, and not paying the artists for performing there, and a little bit greedy, so to speak. So DMAC wants to know how I tame the volume on your cranked Marshall. Curious to the decibels in the room. It's simple. To get this kind of tone in the room, you would go deaf, DMAC. You can't really do it, unfortunately, because right now the amp is both volumes. I would say the master high is about if it's going from 0 facing downwards all the way to like 10 facing downwards again, it's probably at the 3 o'clock mark, so it's kind of like this, and the second one is about 12 o'clock. So if I would play the amp in the room like that, I would go deaf completely. But because I'm going through the aux box, I can basically turn down the volume. There's an attenuation here. I have it turned down completely. So all I'm hearing is the cranked amp going through the aux box into my DAW, which allows me to control the volume. And that's basically what you're hearing. So that's how I do it. You can definitely use an attenuator, but it's still loud. So Rico says, yeah, Wolfie did a killer solo last night on Crazy Train, so I missed that. I'm going to have to catch up on the videos, I guess. Haven't seen it yet, so I've been too busy. Wayne says it's a joke for sure. Yeah, it's unfortunate that artists see it that way. I think more people would be happy to be in the Hall of Fame if it was not for that. I don't know if Jethro Tull made it in yet. I don't have the complete list of how many artists are currently in the Hall of Fame. He might be in there. Motor Rose Music, hey, welcome. He says, great affordable guitar, great mod platform. I couldn't agree more. I think that even the early ones, the early models of these guitars were actually, I feel, better than the current run. I think they're making them even a little bit cheaper now in terms of the quality. Because I have two of these. I have this one, and I have the salmon colored one, which I basically modified also. And they don't feel exactly the same. I think this one is the better feeling guitar, which is an earlier model. So I don't know if they've made changes there. So welcome, guys. If any of you are new, I have to say, please subscribe to the channel to be able to chat here today. Subscription is turned on, which means you have to subscribe. It'll take about a minute, and then you'll be able to jump in on the chat. So I highly recommend you guys do so. How did you guys like my new thumbnail? I kind of changed up the thumbnail for the Addicted to Gear show this week. Tried something new. Got a little creative with it. Don't know if anybody even noticed. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. So if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat. Put a little question mark in front of them, in front of your question, so I know it's geared to me, and I'll get to it, because the comments go by pretty quick, so I miss them sometimes. Ian says that, hey, welcome Ian. Ian says that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is controlled. Gangsters, said Steve Miller. Probably. I know that he ranted quite a bit on the Hall of Fame when he was inducted. So yeah. Steve says, Steve's got a question. Is there a price too much for fun and good times? Some you won't remember. A Kramer can bring into your life. Is there a price too much for fun and good times? Some you won't remember. So I wouldn't say, like, if you're referring to the Kramer Beretta Special, and putting the Vega Trem on it, yeah, I think it's, if you like a guitar, I have no issues putting money onto a guitar that I like, even if it's an inexpensive guitar. I'd be happy to do it. If I enjoy playing the guitar, regardless of how much I paid for it, and I know I can make it better, I'm going to do it. Paul says, Tony, Peter Frampton is addicted to gear. He knows his stuff, and he can talk the talk on amps, guitars, and pedals. Yeah, I'm sure he can. Paul, he's been around for such a long time. I'm sure he's got a pretty decent collection himself. I know recently his missing guitar was found. I don't know if you remember, we talked about that way back. I don't know how long it's been, maybe a year and a half or longer now. I'm losing track, but his famous 3 pickup Les Paul was stolen, I think, way back when, and was returned to him. So it's back with the rightful owner, and I'm sure he's happy about that. It's very iconic, that guitar, along with his talk box. That's one thing I've never owned, is a talk box. I've always kind of wanted to fool around with it. But, beyond playing some Peter Frampton songs with it, what am I going to do with it? That, and maybe some Bon Jovi, maybe. That's about it. I don't know if any of you out there own a talk box, but I'm sure they're pretty fun. Yeah, Shane, I agree with you. It takes a Canadian, right? Alex Lifeson, Hall of Fame speech was very memorable. If you haven't seen it, just Google it. He was kind of doing tongue-in-cheek. Like, he also, I think, had a little bit of a resentment towards the whole thing, I think, because it did take them such a long time to induct Rush into the Hall of Fame, that he kind of, like, was doing a little tongue-in-cheek thing, saying, like, although you think it's a big deal, like, it's not that much of a deal for us. Like, at the end of the day, it's overblown type of thing. People put a lot more weight on the Hall of Fame than maybe it deserves. So I don't know. He was kind of doing that thing, but I thought it was pretty funny. If you look at that video and you pay attention to the expressions on Neil and Geddy's face when he's doing that, it looked like they could have killed him. I don't think they understood where he was going with it, but I think at the end of it, I think it kind of like, it just, made sense. You know what I mean? So, all right. Hey, Rich. How's it going, dude? Rich is here. Ian says he never owned a talk box himself. I don't think it's something that is that popular these days. Someone makes a tubeless talk box. You can use a mic with an XLR connection. Can't remember the name. That seems a little bit more hygienic. I never really thought it, blowing into a tube, and leaving all of that like spittle inside the tube gig after gig would be kind of sanitary. That's just me. I'm not a germaphobe, but I'm sure it got pretty funky in there after a while. Gene says a talk box makes your teeth rattle. Does it? Must feel funny. Never tried it. All right. Presley's here. Dave123. Welcome everybody. Dave123 says, what do you think of the Headstrong Little King? Where do you live in Canada? I'm from Thunder Bay. I'm in Montreal, basically, just off of Montreal. Thunder Bay, never been. That's the crazy thing about us Canadians, Canada is so vast that, people would think that, it's easy to go from province to province, but it's quite a trip. So I never made my way down to Thunder Bay. But welcome to the show. As far as your question, the Headstrong Little King, I never tried one. So I don't really have a first-hand impression of it. Is that something you own, Dave, or something you're looking at getting, or something that's giving you gas right now? Let's see here. Jerry says, Jerry Cantrell mentioned he uses a talk box on his new record quite a bit. Yeah, I think there's still quite a few little artists out there that basically will do the talk box thing from time to time, but it can't be overdone because it's so associated with people like Frampton that it's almost like if you use it, you're kind of associated to him automatically, I would say. Eddie had a question that I overlooked, so I'm going to go back here. Eddie Jr. says, Tony, stupid question. Can you use the aux box with a speaker cabinet live? Yes, indeed you can. The aux box is quite a versatile little piece of gear. It's not inexpensive, but for anybody recording or trying to play at home or trying to keep things under control, it's really good because it does work as an attenuator. So basically you can turn it down completely so you hear no sound coming out of your cabinet, Eddie, or you can actually just turn it back on. Like I can show you. I can turn it on. Like right now, you're getting the sound from, like in the room, I don't hear anything except what I'm hearing through my headphones. Now if I turn up the speaker cabinet here, it'll probably, well, I don't know if it'll make sense because you have to hear it through the microphone here. But let's say I'm playing it through the speaker now. So there you're hearing the live room as well as what's coming through. And the interesting thing though is that it does have speaker emulation, so you can actually change the speaker, change the cabinets through the virtual interface of the aux box. So you can try different speaker combinations, different mic placements, mic combinations as well. So for recording it's great because it does save you a lot of trouble and extra cost, so you don't have to experiment with speakers and all that kind of stuff. Thanks, Rich. Thanks for telling everybody to hit the thumbs up. I appreciate it. So guys, it's show number 228. And I wanted to say that you guys probably noticed that in the chat, yeah, Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith. That's another one. Yeah. What I was saying was that there was a poll question today on the community tab, but I kind of also made it easier for most people by putting the same poll question directly in the comment section. So we're going to take a look at that later today before we wrap it up, and take a moment to vote if you haven't already done it. If you want to support the channel, guys, there's no better way to support our channel and our growing community. I think we're We're getting close to 35,000 subscribers now. And every time we do the Sunday show, I see a few more people. So that's really great. If you want to support the channel, the best way is just to subscribe to the channel. Support the live shows by asking questions. And if you want, you can do a super chat, and all of your donations go towards, just me producing more content and doing more product reviews and all that kind of stuff, bringing you some of that good stuff that keeps us interested in gear. So if you guys, anybody this week had any new gear purchases or interesting experiences with guitars and gear, please share it. We'd like to hear from you. Boomerang is here. Hey, that's a new name I haven't seen. Welcome, dude. Cushman wants to know how much an aux box goes for. Do you really want to know, Cushman? I think I haven't checked the prices recently, guys. So here, let me just go and take a quick look. In Canada, the aux box, let me see here, I think is roughly $2,000 roughly. As I said, it's not an inexpensive piece of gear, but it does allow you to really take advantage of your amplifiers and everything. Like, I wouldn't be able to really get the full spectrum of sounds that these amps are capable of doing in the room live here without like people freaking out. Like, you would need an isolation room, and some people do that. They'll build an isolation room in their garage, in their attic, or basement, where they just insulate a room, put an amplifier in there, mic it up with a speaker, mic up the cabinet with a speaker, and that's what they're hearing through the monitors or through the headphones. But it's a lot of work. You got to run cable, you got to insulate a room. That costs a lot of money. If the room, if you even have a room available, which you may not, if you're in an apartment or something like that, forget it. All that costs money, and then you still have to buy a cabinet and a good microphone, and you're stuck with one cabinet, one microphone, so you don't have the flexibility of trying different things. For me, it's a no-brainer. If you're going to be recording, you need something like that. Gene, there are affordable attenuators besides the aux box. I don't use the aux box for the attenuation, really. I use it more for the built-in cabinets, emulations, speakers, and all that kind of stuff. If you want to use an attenuator, you can get an attenuator for like under $100. But all that's going to do is just lower the volume of your existing amplifier. That's it. There's not much more flexibility built in with that. Like, if I had to get this sound at full volume, just so you know, well, full volume, at decent volume in the room, I would have to use pedals to crank it and keep the sound under control. Wouldn't be able to do it with no pedals, because the amplifier sounds great. That's one thing people don't realize about these amps, the Studio Vintage, is they have that sound that people like. But most people can't get to the sweet spot because it's just too loud. So that's where they're like, it doesn't sound that great. Yeah, it doesn't sound that great because you're not cranking it. You got to crank it. That's the key. Hey, Presley, what's happening, dude? ISO room in the basement. Yeah, if the wife lets you. Orion Quest says, I bought some Supertron pickups. Nice. How much do they cost? Are those, I'm not familiar with the Supertron, but they sound like they're kind of Filtertron, I'm not going to say clones, but with a name like Supertron, I have a feeling they're like based on the Filtertron. Am I right? Am I wrong on that, Orion? So Farid says he uses a Rock Crusher attenuator, but it dulls the sound a little. Would an EQ pedal help to bring it back? And it definitely would. I strongly advise people that are using pedals or are recording, you really do need an EQ pedal. people don't realize how much an EQ pedal can help you out. So if you're losing, you're probably losing the high end due to the attenuation. That's what usually goes first, is the high end sparkle. So you can bring it back just by boosting the highs with an EQ pedal. I'm sure you can get it all back. What the Meow says, wait for Black Friday. Oxbox will be $100 to $200 off. That would be the smart thing to do. The smarter thing to do would be buy it used, like I did. Don't pay full price, dude. It hurts. Like I wouldn't want to pay $2,000 plus tax for something like that when you can get it for a substantial discount used. There's stuff like that floating around on the used market all the time. You can get it for, I'm not going to say half price, but you can get a pretty substantial discount. The fellow that I bought this off of, hardly used it. It was brand new. Like I couldn't tell the difference between a new unit and this one. So why would I want to spend the extra? Let the other guy pay the premium. That's my strategy. Life is hard enough. Why make it harder? Motorose says, I hit the pawn shops yesterday. Vox Valvetronic 40 plus for $75. Dan Electro 59 times 12. 59 by 12 with double lipstick and bridge humbucker in the neck. Both splittable for $290. Very cool, man. I think, a lot of the older gear gets overlooked sometimes. I remember playing with the Valvetronics. They're still floating around. You can still find them. You can still get some decent sounds out of them. I don't see, why you wouldn't, why you would pass something up for $75 like that. I mean, there's a lot of usable sounds in there. Ian says, I have the Torpedo Captor X. Yeah, a lot of people have opted for that. I was considering that, Ian, before I bought the aux, because the Captor is a lot less expensive. But it doesn't have as many features built into it, I found. And you're kind of a little bit more limited, but it works good in terms of, recording, if you want to be able to record with it. A lot of people do like it. I like the stuff that they're coming out with. They're finding very ingenious ways to make it easier for people to record. Anton is here. Hey, Anton. Welcome. He says, I have a Fender The Twin red knob amp with EV speakers. Would the aux box work well for home use, or would the speakers be the limiting factor? Good question. The speakers wouldn't limit you because the aux box has built-in speakers and cabinets. So basically, like what you're hearing right now is an emulation of a speaker cabinet with what I would consider to be Celestion 65s in there, which is basically the same as my 4x12 cabinet, except it's a virtual version of it. The good thing is that with the aux, you can also add reverb. You can also EQ it if you want to. There's also built-in delay if you want to like give it a little bit more air. So you can have like a more realistic sound, a more pleasing sound, and you can save the settings. So you can have like, there's 5 switchable settings that you can load into the unit without necessarily being connected to the software. So you can actually play around with different speakers and see which one would sound best with your red knob amp, So it actually saves you money if you think of it that way. Boomerang says, I'm waiting on an Ibanez style roasted maple neck to arrive for a Steve Vai personal build. Hope it arrives well. So where did you find the roasted maple neck? I know a lot of people do like to build their own guitars. I like to do that too. And there's a lot of variation in types of necks and bodies. They're not always great in terms of quality. Some of them are really good, some of them not so good. So I'm just wondering, Boomerang, if you can share with us where you found that roasted maple neck. I know there's a couple of really good places to buy aftermarket necks, and they actually make necks for a bunch of other types of guitars as well, including the Ibanez. So I'm curious. By the way, how many of you here are Strat lovers in the house? If you're a Strat lover, raise your hand. Because if you are a Strat lover, I'm going to ask you guys to stick around, because I have a pretty cool coupon code that you can use to get some special discounts on Strat pickups if you're interested. So stay tuned for that, and I'll tell you just before we end the show. I'll tell you what that is. You can take advantage of it. I'm always happy to bring you, deals when I think they're good. So just going through the last comments here. So J.K. Lee apparently got shot. Did you guys hear about this? What's up with that, man? I couldn't believe my ears when I read the news. Apparently, he was walking his dog. I believe Jake lives in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. And I've been to Vegas. I didn't feel like it was necessarily a dangerous place, but apparently it is, because poor Jake was just walking his dog and got shot a few times. So he's very lucky he didn't die. I mean, who knows how bad it could have been. But he was shot, was it a week ago or maybe a little longer? I'm not really sure what the date was when this happened, but I'm sure you heard about it. It's been all over the news. And he was hospitalized. And as far as I know, I think he was hit in the arm. He was hit in a couple of different places. I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but apparently he was just walking his dog. A male. They're not giving a lot of information as to how, who shot him, if they actually caught the person or not. But he was transported to hospital, and I think no arrests actually have been made yet. They're still finding the person, looking for the person. So Jake's 67, man. What a way to, it would be a shame to lose somebody like him. And it was bad timing, because, he was just on a lot of social media channels. He was with Dave Friedman, and they were announcing his, like he's basically endorsing a lot of the Friedman stuff right now. And all the Friedman videos with Jake came out, like, I think at the same time as he was shot or something like that. So a lot of people were complaining, saying, it's very bad timing to be doing this when the poor guy got shot. But apparently Dave Friedman set out, he put an announcement out saying, no, he spoke with Jake, and Jake said, no, go ahead. The videos were scheduled to go out, and, continue with it. So anyways, best wishes to Jake. Hopefully, he'll get back to 100%. And hopefully he won't have any lingering issues. Now, Jake's been with, he worked with Ozzy Osbourne way back when. I think it was 1983, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was during the Bark at the Moon album. I think that was 1983. Seems like yesterday. I remember when that album came out. That album was like super big in my high school. I remember a lot of people had the Bark at the Moon t-shirts, where Ozzy Osbourne was kind of like morphing into a wolf, and he was like staring at the moon and howling. That was kind of cool. I wasn't a big Ozzy Osbourne fan back in the day, but still, looking back, I thought that was pretty cool. Hey, Motor Rose, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Always appreciated. He says, I had $5 left from my pawn shop run. It was a great day, and it's a great morning. Rock and roll, you too. Are you an Ozzy Osbourne fan, Motor Rose? Just wondering. Shane's cracking some comedy. He says it happened at night, so I guess you can say he was shot in the dark. Tough crowd, Shane. It's a tough crowd. Yeah, I like Bark at the Moon. the guitar work on that song is amazing. But I think he worked on Bark at the Moon, Rock and Roll Rebel. I believe he was on that too. And I think he also was the guitarist for Ozzy during the Ultimate Sin album, 1996, a few years later. So that's Shot in the Dark, Killer of Giants, Ultimate Sin, I think. But I think the Shot in the Dark was one of the album's major or biggest hits, I think. But Bark at the Moon stands out even after all these years. D-Max says, I played an Ibanez AZ Prestige Japanese-made HSS, then a similar Sir HSS, both awesome guitars, but the Ibanez is half the price of the Sir and has similar specs. Made in USA upcharge. Yeah, well, there's definitely that. You know, you're paying for something that is made in the US, so it's US labor costs, I guess, which adds to it. Of course, you're going to be paying premium for a Sir. So yeah, I would say if you like the AZ, you like the features, you like the feel of it, save yourself some money and go Ibanez. Why not? You know, you don't necessarily have to spend double. Sir guitars are great, no doubt. Basically, you don't have to worry about it if you have a Sir. If something happens to it, I know I've had issues with a sticking truss rod on my Sir, which I didn't even buy new, by the way. I bought it. I actually traded something for it way back when, but I still have it. Great neck on that guitar. And I actually emailed John Sir. He answered me. Well, I didn't email him. I emailed Sir. John Sir himself answered my email and said, don't worry. He's like, you know, sometimes they do stick. He's like, crank the crap out of it. It'll come loose. You won't break the neck. Don't worry. And he's like, and even if you break the neck, we'll send you a new one. Imagine. Who's going to do that for you? Nobody. And I was actually honestly worried I was going to break the truss rod because I was bending the Allen key. That's how much I had to like force it. So what I did was I cranked the crap out of it. It came loose. I loosened up the nut. I greased it all up, put it back in. Haven't had any issues since. And I have peace of mind knowing that they stand by their product. Boomerang says, regarding guitar parts for builds, has anyone heard of a brand called Canes? Parts are made in Japan and Korea, good material and price. Where do you see that brand most of the time? Is that off like Amazon or eBay, or do you go directly to their website? There's a lot of companies making aftermarket parts that are decent, you know. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money, but you gotta be sure you know what you're getting, because sometimes they look great in the pictures, but when you receive them, they're a little lacking. Shane says, Shot in the Dark and the great squealing opening riff. Those are signature little squeals that everybody remembers, you know. Yeah, Paul, exactly. That's what I was trying to explain earlier. You got shot the same day that this Friedman IRJ preamp was released and reviewed. Yeah. I wonder, like, I don't know why somebody would just randomly shoot somebody like that. I don't know if he lives in a questionable neighborhood, but scary when you think about that. Motoro says, yes, sir. It was when I had long hair 40 years ago. Steven's here. Hey, Steven, you're still moving your stuff. Man, dude, you got a lot of stuff. Are you seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, Steven? That's what we all want to know. Because I think it's been like, no joke, probably at least 4 or 5 Sunday shows in a row that you come in and you're telling us you're still moving stuff. So I hope you're getting to the bottom of the stuff, and I hope all that stuff's guitars and gear at least. Hang in there, buddy. D-Max says Sir and Friedman are stand-up companies like that, stand behind and support their customers. Yeah, I think the big thing with companies like Sir and Friedman is that they're not too big. They're still, I think they still have the small company mentality. Because if companies get too big too fast, that's when things fall apart. I've emailed Friedman, and Dave has answered my questions directly. And I don't know Dave; he doesn't know me. It's not like I'm a famous YouTuber or something like that he needs to answer me personally. I think he just does that to everybody, or the people that he can. So that's really cool that you can still get that kind of service today. A lot of companies, that's long gone. You're not going to get that anymore, right? Okay, so the poll question, well, let's leave the poll question for a little bit longer. Let's just let it stay there for a minute. We'll get to that in a little bit. And speaking of Jakey Lee, how's Ozzy doing these days? I think, is he getting ready to do another tour or something like that? I really hope not. Because it sounded at one point like he was going to do something. Which I would almost hate to see him. Like, I don't want him to be like a puppet up there, and just go through the motions. I think he's getting to the stage where the best before date has already passed. And I know he's dealing with several health issues right now. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. That was like back in 2020. And that's not pleasant. It just gets worse and worse over time. But I know he has other things. I think he had a spinal injury as well. He also had, I remember not long ago, he suffered a bad case of pneumonia, and he had various infections and stuff. But, I really hope they're not like forcing him to go out on tour again, because he should just take it easy, enjoy his life. So Ian says, I was shocked John Sir said hi to me live on a show. Why shocked? I know sometimes we think of these guys as superstars, They're almost like rock stars to us because, they own a guitar company, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think they're pretty down to earth. I know Dave Friedman seems like a really down to earth guy. Somebody you can have a conversation with, So Paul is, our encyclopedia of pedals. He says, just released Noble ODR Mini 2, 1983 Nashville Tube Screamer replacement. The new Mini has the HPF to tighten the lows and a boost, $110. So it's not inexpensive. It's still, around over $100 Canadian. That's what, probably 150 or something like that. I was eyeballing the Mini. I was eyeballing the newly released one that they came out with, which was a limited run. I really do want to get one of those Noble pedals eventually. I've heard so many good things about them, and they sound great to me. I wish somebody would make a clone. They probably have, but I don't think it sounds exactly the same. So if I see a used one, I'll probably grab it, but you don't really see them all that often. And I know that I was looking at comparisons between the Mini, the older Mini, because it did come out with a little Mini version, and the previous full-size version, and it wasn't exactly the same. A lot of people still preferred the full-sized version. So I don't know if they did a better job with the Mini 2, but maybe I'll try it out at a shop at one point. Ian says Ozzy can barely talk these days. I know. It's amazing how he can barely talk, but he still manages to sing all the songs. I think there's a little enhancement going on there. Motoro says, I got the Nobles, great pedal, not cheap. I know it's not cheap, but you know what? If it's a pedal that you're going to keep and use all the time, I think it's worth it. You know, there's plenty of other pedals you can flip to be able to, just get the cash to get that pedal. Somebody was asking about the new Fender guitars. That one, the Ultra. Yeah, Motorose, that was you. Anyone try the new Fender Ultra II? It was just released. I was looking for one when I was at the local shop, just to see whether or not they had any. They didn't have any yet, but it's arrived. It's coming. You probably will start seeing them in shops, not in the not too distant future. They have a couple of interesting features I'm interested in trying. I know they have they've changed a couple of things. I think they have the ultra noiseless pickups. And to be honest, I was never a big fan of noiseless pickups, but maybe the new versions could be better. That's why I'm curious to see, if you're really going to get pristine hum-free tones across, the single, when you have them in the single position and, the bridge middle positions. They say that it works well, but I still haven't really found noiseless pickups that deliver complete noiseless functionality without losing something in the tone. So I'm curious about that. I know the Ultra also has the sculpted neck heel, which some people like. They say it makes it easier to play and get access to the upper frets, but I really don't think it makes that much of a difference. It's kind of nice look-wise. I think it looks cool, but whether you have that or not, I think you're going to still have the same amount of access on a Strat, more or less. So I'm not really, that's not the main reason why I would consider buying that one. But apparently they do have a redesigned neck profile with a modern D shape, so it's not going to be like your typical C shape. It's going to be a little bit fatter, and it does have the rolled fretboard edges, fingerboard, and I think it's a satin finish on that one, so it should feel nice. And if I'm not wrong, I think it also comes with locking tuners. Standard 2-point trem, I think, on that. So, there's interesting things. I think some of the colors are nice. It's offered in a Mystic Blue, if I'm not mistaken, Arctic Pearl. I always liked the pearl color on a Strat. I have a couple of Strats that have that pearl finish. I always like that. And I think they also have the S1 switching on it. So it's cool. I think there's a lot of interesting features. If you're into a Strat, why not? Seems like it's all dressed in terms of features. Hey Dave, David's here. Are there any multi-pedal platforms where you can update a pedal? Like loading an IR? Like a multi-pedal platform? A lot of them you can actually load IRs. You mean like update a pedal, like swap out a pedal? Is that what you mean? Most of the multi-pedal platforms, like if are you talking about a multi-effects unit or multi-pedal platforms? Like the old Ibanez used to have the ones where you would be able to switch out the pedals. Is that what you're talking about? I'm a little confused by your question. I know back in the day, Ibanez did have like a box that had little modular pedals that you can just swap in, like hot swap. The thing with that is that you usually have to have some kind of proprietary system to be able to do that. And I think that's the downfall of most of these systems, because people don't like to be stuck with one thing. You know, they want to be able to use their existing lineup of pedals too. So when you have just one thing that you have to stick with, it's either you like it or you don't. Oh, if he's talking about loading sounds into a pedal, like a multi-effect with yeah, there are companies that do that. Yes, I don't own any of them, but I think there was one company, and I can't remember the name now. Maybe some of you know what it's called, where they had exactly that. It was kind of like a box that you can pretty much load whatever you want into it. Punk Rocket says, I'm in the market for a foot switcher that changes my tone. Do you recommend any? There's a lot of them on the market. Some of them are pretty expensive. Have you tried like the ones that are made by like the Chinese companies? They're usually less expensive and they work pretty much just as well. I think like Joyo probably makes one. I don't know if Nuex has. But you can do a quick search on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Google, and you can find quite a few. I know what you're talking about. I don't really use them that much. I don't have one. So firsthand, can't really recommend one that I would say is better than the others. I mean, I usually go cheap first, and then if that doesn't do the job, consider something else. But it depends if you're playing professionally or not, Punk Rocket. If you're playing professionally in front of an audience and you're not just playing at home, I would say spend the extra money, get something reliable, because you don't want to have issues while you're playing in front of an audience, that's for sure. Cool Tune says, Tony, got my 2x12 matching cabinet for my SV20. Awesome so far. Great. And that's the one with the V-type speakers in it, if I remember correctly, right? How do you like the speakers so far? Is it in the ballpark of what you were aiming for? Guys, if you don't mind, please give me a thumbs up. Just a reminder, I know we have 61 people here today so far and 36 thumbs up. So half of you are probably not necessarily close to the thumbs up button, but for those of you who are, I would appreciate it. It does help. It does get more people, make more people aware of this Sunday show. And by the way, the Sunday shows happen at the same time every Sunday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. For the most part, sometimes we mix it up a little bit, but not that often. SB has a community question. He says, anyone here use Harley Benton power supplies? Are they good as reviews say? So I welcome people to chime in on that question. I can say that I've used not the Harley Benton ones, but I've used like the Joyo ones. And at least the Joyo ones, I could remark that they're not exactly the same. If you buy something that is good quality, I shouldn't say good quality, because a lot of times people will get enough of what they need out of a cheap or less expensive unit like a Harley Benton or a Joyo or other companies out there. But what I find is that they're not made the same way. A lot of times they don't have the same innards, and you'll know that, you can see that compared to a more expensive one. Like I have a Decibel 11 power unit, and the difference is that you have a really durable enclosure. It's made solidly, won't fall apart on you over time. The cable is a nice big grounded cable, 3-prong. It's not like the little round cables that power up the thing. And it basically will withstand any kind of power surges or any kind of fluctuations in power better. What I've noticed is when I unplug mine from the wall, the lights stay on for a good almost 10 seconds before it powers off. Whereas the cheaper ones, you unplug it, it goes off right away. And sometimes they don't even have enough power when you're maximizing all the slots. So if you're using like 8 pedals and it's got 8 outputs, sometimes you won't even have enough juice, and you'll get noise issues. So that's why, with power, you want to basically get the best you can, because you don't want to start having issues with noise and things that you can't necessarily fix. Isolation is a big one. David, you're absolutely right. Isolation is a big factor to consider, and also the more expensive ones will also give you the ability to upscale the power. So they'll give you a couple of outputs that will give you more power. So you can go like 9 or 18 or something like that for pedals that require more juice. And some of the less expensive ones don't always do that. Hey J Paul, nice to see you, dude. Says, went for a drive and missed the beginning. Happy Sunday, fellow gear addicts. It's a perfect day for a drive. It's an awesome weekend. Yesterday was beautiful. I think today's going to be beautiful as well. So yeah, take advantage, man. If you can be outside, why not? David, you're right. Lights staying on means bigger capacitors, more juice. And that's kind of what you want. Jamel says, welcome Jamel. He says, I'm itching to get a Silver Sky SE from American Music Supply. They have them marked down for the rest of the year. I'm a big fan of the Silver Sky. I did a review on one. You guys might have seen it. It's a fun guitar to play. It feels good. It sounds good. I'm all for it. I know there was a big hoopla over the Silver Sky when it first came out, and diehard Strat fanatics weren't happy. But you know what? It's a good guitar. I like it. If you can grab it for cheap, it's even better. Well, since we're talking about Strats, and I did promise you a discount code, if you guys are looking at maybe picking up some Strat pickups, if you have some Strats, our good friends over at Porter Pickups that are sometimes here, I guess they're not here today, but they're sometimes here. They are offering a 15% discount on Strat pickups. So if you guys are interested, mosey on over to porterpickups.com after the show and just type in the following code. It's 15, so 15 off Strat, all one word. So 15 OFFSTRAT. You can do that on checkout, and you can get a nice discount on any of their Strat pickups. So if you're interested, maybe you're building yourself a guitar, or perhaps you're upgrading a guitar or something like that, good time to save some money. Just a little bonus for you guys. So enjoy. And if anybody asks, say you heard it from me. I like to support the guys over at Porter. They do make some awesome pickups. Cool Tune says, Tony, can't get a bad tone out of this SV20. Happy days ahead. I agree. It's a great amplifier. I'm so happy I grabbed it. I always encourage others to, if you can get one for not too much money, grab one. They're great. I'm really curious to see what Marshall's going to come out with next, because I think it's going to be something really cool. I think you guys are going to be impressed when you see what they're working on. I know they're working on something big. They have to. There's so many other amp companies that are taking their lunch away from them. They're doing the Marshall thing because Marshall's not doing the Marshall thing, you know? So I'm pretty sure the next one is going to be something special. and I can't wait. I'm itching to see what it's going to be. J. Paul's curious about the affordable Sire Strats. Seen one for less than $1,000. Those Sire Strats have been around the internet, social media for quite a while. They look like they're pretty cool. Like they look like they're high-end guitars. And I think the only reason why they're not more popular is just because they're made overseas and people are hesitant about that. But I think for what you're getting a lot of guitar for the money. And if you can find a used one floating around too, that's even better. So keep your eyes open. You're welcome, Boomerang, anytime, dude. That's what I'm here for. SB says, J. Paul, I was torn between the Sire S7 and the Ibanez AZES, and I went with the AZES just for hardtail. But from what I've heard, Larry Carlton Strat should be pretty good. There's a lot of competition in that world. There's a lot of competition when it comes to the Super Strats, you know, between Charvel's, Ibanez, the Sires, heck, even the new Donner Strat that I showed you guys about a week ago. It's in that same ballpark, and I couldn't believe that that guitar was like under $300. You know, throw a decent set of pickups in that guitar, and you're a happy camper. Wouldn't take a whole lot. Paul's back with another one. He says, Tone City Nobleman is the best. Nobles, $55 USD. Just released Fractal Audio VP4, just pedals and effects, but $650 USD. No lint to pick for sound quality. No limit, I guess. Yeah, I saw the Fractal Audio VP4. A lot of people are talking about it. Seems interesting. For those of you that don't know, the Fractal VP4 is basically just, it's a fractal unit, but with only effects. So they basically stripped out all of the cabinets, amp, modeling, and all of the IR stuff. And they're basically just giving you the effects for $650. But you have a lot of great effects. And if you had to accumulate all of those effects in one package like that, it'd probably cost you more than that. Plus you have like no noise, a very, you know, user-friendly package that you can bring with you almost anywhere. So I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. If I didn't already have the Fractal FM9, I definitely consider getting something like that. But thank you about letting me know about the Tone City Nobleman. Is that brand new, Paul? I think it's been out a while, hasn't it? Am I mistaken here? I guess I'll have to check that one out. Thank you for doing the homework for us. I appreciate it. Hey, Charles, what's happening, dude? Charles is here. Working on any more fabric top guitars, Charles? Always like your videos on those projects. Boomerang says, I think he meant to say, I really want to own a Black Cat amp one day. Yeah, those Black Cats are interesting. What I wanted to say when we were talking about the Strats and the Fender Ultras is that it's crazy to see, though, how much time has caused prices on guitars to go up. And I was just doing a little research on the pricing of guitars. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but like over the last 5 years, the prices of guitars has risen significantly. And you know, what's the reason? We don't really know. There's a combination of things happening at the same time. Inflation, we had the supply chain disruptions, we had increased manufacturing costs, all of those things, which caused the prices of guitars to increase about, I would say between 30 to 50%, depending on the brand, of course. But you know, those prices didn't seem to be coming down all that much. I think now just a little bit, slightly, a smidge. But you know, for example, Fender, Gibson have both had consistent price hikes. for example, the Epiphones, the new Epiphones that you can see now, they're approaching $1,500. You know, Epiphones were always around 800 back in the day. Now they're over $1,000. The Fender Mexican made, like the Ventura series, for example, they're over $1,000. So this, you know, to me represents a considerable jump from the price of, you know, just a few years ago that we've seen. It's sad, you know, but it's, I guess, you know, everything's becoming more expensive. I did a little analysis just for you guys over the last 5 years. So over the last 5 years, I did a comparison between Fender, Epiphone, Gibson, PRS, and Squier. So back in 2018, like a Fender Mexican was about $700. Now in, like, not 2024, but 2023, the price was about $1,000. So that represents like a 42% increase. Fender Mexicans, you know, the Epiphones similarly. Actually, I'm gonna say Epiphone had the biggest jump. Epiphone were about 600, around the $600 mark back in 2018. Last year they were about 1,500. So that's over. That's 150% increase. That's a lot. Gibsons, they went from about 2,400 to about 3,200. So about 30% increase. PRS, about 700 to about 1,050, which is a 50% increase. And even Squiers, they went from about $400 to about $600, you know. So quite a bit. And I don't think they're going to ever come down to where they were. Motor Rose Music says, demand and supply. Remember the COVID years when guitar buying went through the roof, prices went up. When they go up, they don't seem to come down. But the funny thing about that, Motor Rose, is that what we saw during that time was that, yes, prices did go up. A lot of people jumped on the bandwagon and decided to pick up an instrument. But the biggest increase were the sub $500 guitars. So that would lead me to suspect that if I was a guitar manufacturer, that is a big, important chunk of the market that is probably underserved today, because you can't get a guitar for that price easily anymore, unless you go with overseas models. So, you know, I would like to see guitar companies, you know, pay attention to that segment of the market, people that can afford, you know, $500 to $600. I think there's a lot of them out there. That's why I think a lot of people are focusing on used guitars, because you can get a used guitar for that price. Angus says, I recall seeing Fender American standard Strats for about $600 to $700 in 1987. Yeah, back in the day, those were the good days. But, you know, back in 87, $600 to $700 still seemed expensive. You know, it seems cheap now, but back in 87, that was a big chunk of money. Paul says the Fractal VP4 released October 15th, my birthday. Is that an omen? Does that mean I should get one? So new the paint's still wet, he says. Yeah, it's definitely new. A lot of people were hyping that it was just fake, like it was people just messing with us, photoshopping a unit because they weren't sure that it was real. But it seems to be real now. I'm going to be looking at some of those reviews intently when they do start coming out on YouTube. I'm very curious as to how it's going to sound. David said prices do go up, but they also release cheaper entry models. An $119 Squier Strat. I know that they do that, David, except I would, you know, hate to see them cheapening the Strat, the Squier, let's say entry models. The classic vibes were good. Like for what you were getting, I felt you were getting your money's worth. The classic, at least the classic Vibe series. Then they dropped to the Affinity series, which I wouldn't spend money on those. I just feel like they're not necessarily worth it. Angus said, I bought a brand new ESP Horizon for $600 with a case in 87. The 80s were great, weren't they? Jamel says, I paid a little under 600 US for my Made in America Fender Stratocaster in 1994. We're dating ourselves, guys. We're dating ourselves here. It's okay. We're all about the same age, I think. And Angus says, the top of the line Jackson Soloist was well over $1,000 in Los Angeles in 87. I remember higher end Hammers. I don't know if they're pronounced hammer. I think they're pronounced hammer. Like the Steve Stevens 2 Tile and Chaparral were about $800. Yeah, I remember some of those as well. I remember the Jackson Soloists were quite popular. They were kind of like the high-end, sort of like shredder guitar that a lot of people liked. And then, like recently, people are still trying to sell those and still trying to get maximum dollar for them, but I think that's over now. Ian has a good point. He says minimum wage was $2 in 1987. It's a good point. You know, I still remember being able to take the bus for 10 cents. Those days are gone. Motoro says the budget market is way better than, I guess, when we were kids. 150 was a crap guitar back in the 80s. I paid 225 for a bottom of the barrel Ibanez RG140 in 1987. I think the manufacturing process has gotten better. I tend to agree. I think that nowadays you can get more consistent guitars even for less money. More playable guitars, I would say. Yeah. J. Paul says, I modded a Sonic, cheap of the cheapest. Did everything, even crown level and polish, all hardware and pups for the money spent. It's a very, very playable and enjoyable guitar. Well, that's what I'm talking about too. I mean, like, look at this guitar. This is like a $200 guitar, Put in a nice pickup in here. I did throw in, a pretty expensive Floyd here, the Vega Trem. So that, that kind of blows the budget. But I mean, even stock, you can upgrade the stock tremolo with something that's not necessarily a Vega Trem and still get a very, very, very playable guitar. Angus said, I got a Kramer Beretta in 87 for $700 with case. Great guitar, built like a rock. I've seen the Berettas still floating around in the used market for about $800 today. The old ones. If you can find one that doesn't have chips in it, a lot of them are a little beat up. I like it when the comments start like with the words, I remember. I remember seeing the Kramers in the 80s and really wanting one, but the morning paper round ended up wishful thinking. However, when the Kramers reappeared recently, I ended up with 3. Well, I was a big fan of the Kramers too, because I was also a big fan of Eddie Van Halen. So, it was the guitar to have, but I couldn't afford it. So that's why I grabbed these. Close enough for me. A lot of the Kramers are beat up. I agree with Shane. Yeah, you gotta look hard to be able to find one that's not in bad condition. So, there's a lot of choice out there now for about $800. So you can definitely look for something that is a little bit in better condition than those old Kramers for sure. Speaking of Kramers and speaking of Eddie, when's that Eddie Van Halen tribute gonna happen? Is it ever gonna happen, guys? I don't think so, man. I would love to see something happen, but every time it's brought up somewhere, it's always like a no. It's always a negative. Nobody's ever saying, hey, yeah, there's a good chance. His brother, nothing. doesn't seem to be interested. I think I read something recently that he was kind of Alex was shifting the blame on Dave, saying that Dave is against it, or I don't know, man. I just think it's a shame. It's been too many years. They should have done it right away. They didn't, and I think that ship has sailed. The train has left the station. Maybe it's better that they don't do anything and just leave it at that. I don't know. You know, it's worse when they try and do something and it's too late. You know what I mean? Let it be. Plus, at the same, you know, by the same token, are they going to do a good job, or is it going to be like, you know, another reason to have arguments and fights and everything like that? It's maybe best not to do it. It is. It is a sign of, Dan's absolutely right. He says, sadly, it's a tribute to how dysfunctional the band was. It's amazing how the band ever made it with all of the issues that they had in there, you know? Yeah, Boomerang, Joe is playing with Sammy, but to me, that's not Van Halen. I mean, it's a facsimile. And, you know, I love Joe and everything, but he's not Eddie Van Halen. Totally different flavor, in my opinion. So, I don't know. It's just, that's just me. When's the best time to buy a guitar, Eddie says? Yesterday. It's kind of like real estate. Best time to buy an apartment block? Yesterday. Paul also says the difference between an expensive guitar and the best entry-level guitar is a setup. $200 setup. A setup will do a lot to a so-so guitar. I agree. Absolutely. A lot of people are living with guitars that are not set up properly. And if you haven't done a setup recently, like if you have guitars and, you know, maybe you've owned the guitar for 4 or 5 years, you've never set it up in those 4 or 5 years, almost certainly your guitar needs a setup. People think that just because they bought a guitar, it was set up properly out of the store, which is absolutely false. A lot of stores don't even waste time doing setups. And as a matter of fact, they'll use a setup to entice you. They'll say, if you buy a guitar, we'll throw in a setup worth X amount free of charge, and you can come back and we'll set it up for you. And it's just a way to get you back in the store, to get a so-so setup done, where they just basically, you know, change the strings, clean your neck, and maybe adjust the height of the pickups. That's about it. They're not going to do much more than that. It's just a way to make you feel like you're getting extra out of the deal, which is not really true. So I would strongly say, if you have a guitar that you enjoy playing, do yourself a favor, like at least once a year. You know, if you can't do it yourself, maybe once every 2 years, if you can't afford it, bring it to a guy that knows what he's doing, and it's going to make a world of difference. You'll see. You kind of forget how good a guitar can feel. And then when you get it, you know, set up properly and everything's intonated, and you strum that chord and everything stays in tune, it's great. It's a great feeling. Well, that's one of the reasons why I asked the poll question today. Let me go back to the poll question here. Let me see if I can even find it now. So I put the poll question in 2 different places, and I hope I didn't confuse you guys, because I had the poll question in the community section, and I also had the poll question right in the comment section. So I wanted to make it easier for you guys, but maybe I just made it more confusing. So I'll look at the poll question in the community section first, and we did get 166 votes there. And I asked, what was the most recent mod you've done to your guitar? Again, you know, when I say a mod, I'm not talking about a setup. I'm talking about like changes that you've done, permanent changes. I often look at a guitar and, you know, I won't hesitate to mod it if I feel I can make it better. And because I can do most of the stuff myself, you know, it's not that expensive. But if you're bringing it to a tech to do something, it could get expensive real quick. But I think a lot of you are doing that. From what I can tell in terms of your knowledge and the questions and the type of questions that you're asking on the live show, I know you guys are comfortable, most of you anyway, comfortable with doing your own mods. And, you know, I can tell you guys are seasoned when it comes to owning guitars. So I feel like we're talking the same language here. And I can see that from the poll question, so 42% of you do pickup upgrades as a recent mod, or have done a pickup upgrade as a recent mod. And I'm not surprised by that answer, because I think upgrading pickups on your guitar is probably, the first thing that you can do to get better tone if you're struggling with pickups that come with your guitar. So I think a lot of times people will do that. And it's a popular thing that I do to most of my guitars, as you well know. Sometimes I do get razzed about that, because I rarely leave stock pickups in a guitar long. They usually get swapped out quite frequently with me. So that's a very common modification. Now, second on the list is tuners. I think that's the Achilles heel on a lot of guitars, are the tuners. I think a lot of budget guitars skimp on the quality of the tuners, and people do like to upgrade that, whether you're putting in locking tuners or compensated tuners or whatever you want to put in there. I think that's an easy upgrade as well, not expensive. You can get a very high-end set of tuners for like $150, like top of the line, something that you're going to keep in your guitar forever. But sometimes just $40-50 will give you a nice set of tuners. Next on the list, we have an upgraded bridge, new wiring or switching options. Those are things that both got 14% of the votes. And last was other cosmetic mods, which could be a variety of different things. There were a couple of comments in here, so I want to see what people are saying. So our own Steven, who's busy moving, says the last guitar of mine that I've done mods on was a 66 Hagstrom. That was a complete custom body inlay, new fretboard inlays, refinished in nitro, new tuners, new wiring system, new pickups, and finally, and I finally finished moving into the new place. And I misread that. After I finally finish moving into the new place and get organized, I'll be installing new frets and reviewing the 12-inch radius Fret Maestro system. So Steven's basically made a new guitar, piece by piece, mod by mod. He did quite a bit on that guitar, which I think is making him like to keep that guitar, because he's putting his heart and soul into it, and he's making it the way he wants it to be. So that's excellent. Other people have just changed strings. That's the mod that they're doing. After 2 years, they're changing their strings. That's about as far as they want to take it with mods. So, Gene says yes to all of the above. I'm still waiting for parts from various companies. I don't like my instruments to look like everyone else's, so I personalize. That is a good point, Gene. A lot of people forget about that. It's true that it's nice to make a guitar your own. Some people just don't like touching their guitar at all. They're like, I like it the way it is. I don't want to touch it. Leave it the way it is. I like it stock. And other people are like, no, that's what I don't like about my guitar. It looks like everyone else's. So that's, very cool. I like to see people, taking the opportunity to see what they can improve and not being afraid to do it. SB says, my current guitar doesn't need mods. It's pretty decent. But instead of putting $300 into pickups plus $100 for tuners, that is likely 1/3 of the price of a custom-made guitar, I guess, in my country. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that some people will not do it. Like some people will not throw a pickup like a JB into something like this because the guitar's $200. The pickup alone is around $200, right? So why throw a JB into a guitar that's, you know, the pickup costs more than the guitar? But I feel like the guitar is the vehicle. You know, if the neck is good and you're getting better sound out of the pickup and it feels even better when you change, you know, the trem or the tuners, why not do it? Like, I love this guitar now. You know, it scratched the itch for a more expensive guitar. To be able to get what I'm getting out of this guitar now, I would probably have to go, you know, Kramer, you know, the reissued Kramer or above, which is like over $1,000. So I'm still ahead. Cushman says, I just put a set of Seymour Duncan Seth Lovers in my Les Paul Classic, and he says he loves it. I've always wanted to try the Seth Lovers. Never have had an opportunity, but I hear good things, Cushman. So it's encouraging to hear that you like them. MFM says, my best mod of 2024 was adding a poker chip to my Gibson Les Paul Studio. So at least you know it's yours now, right? That's cool. A lot of people will even change on their Gibsons. They'll change the covers in the back. You know, they have the custom shop covers, or you can buy these custom made covers off of eBay, where they'll engrave them with whatever you want. Or, you know, the truss rod cover here, you can get custom ones. Some cool ones are made of wood. Some of them that are, you know, made of different metals and, you know, pretty intricate. I like those. You know, a lot of people think they're cheesy. I like them. It gives it like a little flair. Motoro says, I'm going to put $150 Seymour Duncan P90 in my $150 West Creek DC. Flame me now. You're not going to get any flames from me, dude. If it makes you happy and it sounds good and you're playing it, who's going to tell you it's wrong? And if they do tell you, that's, you know, you don't need that kind of negativity in your life, I think. Ian, YouTube is always slamming with commercials. It's frustrating because it ruins the momentum of a live show. You know, unfortunately, what can I do? It is what it is, but that's how they're making their gazillion dollars that they generate every day. You know, bajillions even. Freaking YouTube. What can I do? They're barely scraping by, you know. They've got to make money. Charles says, locking tuners and Vega Trem on my Fender Strat. Yeah, man. I'm all for the Vega Trem, and locking tuners are pretty cool too. I like the locking tuners more because they add weight to the headstock. You know, I don't really need the locking aspect of them. And I kind of like having wraps of strings around the tuners, because if I break a string, if you put a string through a locking tuner and cut it, you know, you don't have any meat there. And sometimes what ends up happening, the string just gets unraveled because it's just a little pin that presses against the edge of your string. And if you cut it, you know, the fatter strings are just a wire with another wire wrapped around it. And if you just grab the outer wire, eventually it could like just strip out. So I like actually wrapping it around the actual post. It just gives me, I've had too many issues with locking tuners. So I use them. I still will use a locking tuner, but I'll wrap it around the posts. And I'll have the extra mass on the headstock, which I feel adds a little something to the guitar. Yeah, if you're going to be changing any kind of hardware, Schaller is usually top-notch. German stuff, it's expensive, but the quality of the metal is good. The quality of the manufacturing is perfect. It'll last you a lifetime. You can get knockoffs, but it's just what they are. They're knockoffs. They're not going to be the same. Boomerang says, I made some carbon fiber neck plates that worked out fantastic. That's cool. Never considered that. Now, carbon is good for flex, but I heard that carbon is not necessarily good for compression. Am I wrong? Like I know on carbon fiber bikes, they're good because they do flex, but if you hit them, they'll crack. So I'm not sure how you made your carbon fiber neck plates, but if you're saying it's working, it's working. Gene says we're all tone explorers. Yeah, I think so. I think we're never happy with the tone that we have. That is human nature. We're always looking at making things better. Think about it. Over our lifetime, what is, the thing that is the single most consistent factor of humans is that they're always trying to make things better. They're just always moving forward. And I think that's just something we can't help as humans. We're just like always striving for better, quicker, faster, cheaper, whatever it is. And it's the same for tone. You might have amazing tone right now, and you will not stop the search. I don't think anybody out there is going to say, I found it, I'm good. They might say that for a day or two, but I guarantee you after a while, they're still going to be searching. They're still going to be looking at YouTube videos. They're still going to be trying new things. It's just stronger than us, I think. Hey guys, give me a thumbs up if you still haven't done so. I appreciate it. Rob says, speaking of string angle, are those staggered height tuners helpful much? Good question. I think in certain guitars they are. In a Strat, basically everything's straight. It's nice to be able to have the tension on the nut at a different angle as it goes down your headstock. I don't know if it really makes any difference in tone. I wouldn't say I can hear a tonal difference, but I think having the pressure on the nut slightly at different angles will help, at least for tuning stability, I think. At the end of the day, it's a personal choice. It's a personal thing. I've tried them. I do like them. I won't necessarily, I wouldn't say I have to have that on all my guitars. I'm not that infatuated by them, but I think it's nice to have that on the guitars that I do have them. I like them. A lot of it is just personal preference, really. Steven says, I'll be setting up a notebook with settings for different tones, so I can always go back to a certain sound for whatever I'm playing requires. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I don't do that for tones, but I do that for guitar setups. I usually have all my favorite settings recorded, so I know exactly, what the height of the string should be, how much radius I should have on the neck, the height of the saddles and whatnot, how deep the nut slots need to be and all that kind of stuff. Till recently, I've just done it through feel. Like I can take a guitar and within a couple of seconds, I'll know the difference in terms of how this guitar feels compared to another guitar. Especially if I'm taking a guitar right, like one after the other, I can definitely feel where it needs to be adjusted. Like, oh yeah, curvature on the neck on this one is a little bit too high or too low. Or, the E string on this one is a little bit too high, it needs to be a little bit closer to the frets. Things like that. I'm pretty much dialed in now, right? I can feel it. Gene says, Tony, how was your Thanksgiving and birthday? Pretty good. Thanks for asking, Gene. My birthday, as an old guy, my birthday is not necessarily the hoopla that it used to be. But, I enjoy being spoiled by my family and having the kids around and, having a little cake and whatnot. So, yeah, it was good. Can't complain. Motoro says, I use Ernie Ball Primo Slinky 9.5s to 44. Great if you have Strat and Les Paul guitars. Anyone else try these? I had those, I was using those for a while, the 9.5s. Yeah, they definitely have a good feel to them. And I do agree, if you have a Strat and a Les Paul, it's a good compromise. Because 10s for me are a little bit too heavy. 9s are good because I'm used to them. But 9.5s it's an interesting change. Keeps it fresh. I would recommend you guys try that out at least once. It might be good for you. Boomerang said, scored an early 80s Kramer ESP reverse headstock neck cheap. It's like new. I always like those cool 80s necks. I think they're fun. They're fun to play. Thank you, Shane. Thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. My birthday was the 15th. So it's gone. But thank you nonetheless. I appreciate it. Yeah, Dave said Super Slinky 9s for me. That's what I've been using for the longest time, Dave. That's my go-to. You know, if ever, you know, that feels like home to me. But sometimes I do like to try different strings. I still have those 7s that I haven't put on any guitar yet. I'm curious to try. Those Billy Gibbons 7 gauge strings are still calling to me. I got to put them on something, and it's probably going to be a Les Paul. So I'm just waiting for a string to snap on one of my other guitars, and I'm going to put it in there. Thank you, Rico. 21st. Yeah. How did you know? Cheers to that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the post-birthday wishes. I appreciate it. Speaking of Billy Gibbons and his strings, anybody know that, you know, Billy Gibbons used to be, like, he's been around for a long time. I don't know how old he is exactly. I haven't Googled it, but I know he's getting up there. He's old enough to have played with Jimi Hendrix back in 1968. That was even before I was born. So, you know, if I'm 55 and that's a year before I was born, he must have been at least in his teens, probably, when he was playing with Jimi Hendrix. So I don't know if anybody could Google how old he is, but I'm sure he's late 70s, early 80s, I'm guessing. But he's been around for so long. I think he created his first band when he was like 14 years old. I think they were called the Moving Sidewalks, and it was kind of a psychedelic based band. I don't know if you guys ever heard anything from them, but you know, they opened up for acts like The Doors or the Jimi Hendrix. I think they even released a full length album at some point called Flash, which I haven't actually heard. So I'm curious if you can find that anywhere. You know, but we all know he's cool. He's a cool cat. He loves guitars. He loves cars. What could be better than that, right? Hey, Billy Beers. Thank you, dude. Thank you so much. Happy birthday to my ninja. Oh, man. Guitar ninja, huh? So a lot of people don't know that Billy Gibbons, the car that appeared in the Eliminator video that we all probably saw and loved when we were teenagers, I always thought they were so cool with the spinning guitars back in, I think what is this? The Eliminator album came out in what year? I forget now, but I was a teenager. Anyways, that car is a 1933 Ford Coupe. And it became iconic after that video. Give Me All Your Lovin'. And it also appeared in Sharp Dressed Man too. But I didn't know that was his car. I thought it was, you know, a car that they got for the video somewhere, but it's actually his car. And you know, just like his love of cars, his love of guitars is just as strong. You know, we've all seen his Pearly Gates 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard. He named it after a car, obviously. So I don't know what he prefers more, cars or guitars. but apparently he sold a car to finance the purchase of the guitar, and that's why he called it Pearly Gates, because ever since then it's been giving him good luck. So you know, that guitar is worth a pretty penny. I think it was a good trade-off for sure. And he's famous for using those 7-gauge strings that I was telling you about, and that's the set that I have. And if you haven't tried them, I think they're called the Reverend Willie's Lottery brand. 7-gauge strings. You can. I know you were able to get them off Amazon. The price has gone like through the roof. I don't know why. I got them when they were still cheap. I bought a couple of sets, but I haven't tried them yet. But I looked recently, and the prices are crazy now. So I don't know why that is. But I would say if you can get them somewhere else for cheaper, do that and try them out. It's all good. You know, it's like it's interesting to be able to try new things every once in a while. So David says his birthday's the same day as mine. Another Libra. Dude, congratulations. Well, happy birthday then, since you celebrated your birthday too. Brothers from another mother. Good to know. I hope you had a good birthday too. Charles says good hang today. Thank you, Charles. I try and make them all good hangs, but sometimes, you know, sometimes the momentum is better than others. But you guys had good energy today. Good questions. I like that. You guys make the Sunday shows, you know, like I'm just talking here, but you know, you guys are asking the right questions and keeping the momentum going, and that's what I really love. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys. Jeff Beck was also a major car dude. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of, I gotta say, you know, rock and roll guitars and cars go so well together. You know what I mean? Good night, Shane. Hope you have some excellent dreams about guitars and gear. Casey Lee says, I have Reverend Willie's on one guitar. You can play for hours with no fatigue, just a little light touch. But the thing is, I have a kind of heavy, you know, touch. So maybe my touches will be a little bit too much. Talking about, we're talking about gunk off a rosewood. Lighter fluid, yeah, David's right. That'll work. They do sell gunk, what is it called? Gunk off or something like that, goof off or something like that. I don't remember what it's called. But you don't have to spend a lot of money because most of the time lighter fluid will work. That usually does it. And I like lighter fluid because it evaporates quickly and it doesn't leave any like residue. It just smells a little bit. But yeah. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. What do you guys think? Yeah, Angus, that is a JB. Yes, it is. I mentioned it earlier on. That's one of the things. I didn't actually put the JB on it. It was actually already in the guitar when I bought it. So that's one less thing I had to spend money on, but it is a JB and I like it in this guitar quite a bit. Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. All right, guys, I think that's it. I've been talking too long. Today I only intended to be talking for about an hour, and it's almost 2 hours. But I appreciate you guys asking great questions and sticking around throughout the whole thing. Please remember, if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Always new stuff coming out. And if you didn't take advantage or if you missed the code that I offered earlier on, you can support our good friends over at Porter Pickups if you're looking for Strat pickups. They are having a Strat pickup sale. And if you want to grab something, you can get a discount of 15%. The discount code that you can put in when you check out is 15 off Strat, all one word. So 15OFFSTRAT, and the website is porterpickups.com. You can grab some cool pickups. They always do a great job with the pickups, and we want to support them. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys have a great week. I'm looking forward to next Sunday, of course. If you have anything you want to reach out to me about, I'm always reachable on social media, by email, or just by dropping a comment right in the video chat. And I'll have some other videos coming out. There's a great tool I want to show you guys if you're doing setups on your guitar that is a must-have that I just discovered and I can't live without, and that's going to be an upcoming video as well. Okay, I'll keep it just giving you a little teaser so you know what's coming up. Hit the little like button on the way out if you can, guys, and spread the word. It's always great to see more people participating in these live Sunday shows. Have a great week, have a productive week, and see you again next Sunday. Cheers, guys. Take it easy.